notoriously hard thing to do, though, isn't it? I mean, you have to get through the editors of various publications, and a whole lot of them don't like freelancers. They either go themselves or they send their own staff, and so on trips that are offered.
Yes.
And then if you go and pay for your own travel, I mean, the pay is so miserly that you can never get back the money that you've expended on the trip. So,
no. Well, when I started out, there was a bit more money, I think, in the freelance budgets. I'd never been a staff writer, so as you say, it is hard to just come in as a freelancer without any history. But they did have freelance budgets, and I think because a lot of publications, when the staff take a trip, they have to take it out of their annual leave, and then of course that staff is needed, and so they're not necessarily available to take trips, and so that is how it sort of began for me. Now it is, and I still freelance. That's really, you know, my bread and butter. It's a lot harder, and it's all about relationships that I've built up over the years, really.
And I've heard you on radio too, so you're doing some radio stuff. So is that paid, or do they just ring you up and say, would you like to talk to us about LA or something? And
well, I have a regular gig now on News Talk ZB, so every Sunday morning I'll have a little chat there, and that is just all about being able to promote my website. So no, it's not paid either way, but also I don't pay them. So the kind of nice thing is I get to talk about a destination, we have a little chat, little laugh, few tips, advice, whatever, and then people are directed to go and read a bit more from my site, which is cool.
So at some stage, when you could see the market shrinking for, you know, the old-fashioned paid work on paper, then how did you make that switch into the online world? Well,
again, it was kind of a falling into. I was invited by House of Travel to be their blogger when they first started, so that was about 7 years ago. So back then, travel blogging in New Zealand wasn't happening at all, and it was exciting for me. I did 3 years, 2 blogs a day, 5 days a week. And I loved it, and it was fun, and you know, and so partly for their point of view was that we wanted to create an audience to follow the blog, but we also want to have search engine traffic that comes because of you've used the right sort of keywords to land on the site and potentially book a holiday. But about 3 years after that, they had a big shift around. They decided to cancel that and move their funding into a different part of the business. So I decided at that
all of a sudden, work dries up.
Started the global financial crisis just coincidentally. So I decided to go out on my own. And fortunately, just back then, 2009, I think it was, bloggeratlarge.com was available as a domain name, which I thought was incredible. So I bought .co.uk and .co.nz as well, and it all just feeds into the same site. And we added the word travel just last year because everyone calls themselves a blogger at large. If you do a Google search for blogger at large, you'll get it across every industry in the world. So I needed to sort of, at least I've got the .com name though, but I needed to sort of make sure it was travel. So that was hard because 2 factors. 1, I needed enough content to make people want to come and visit, and 2, I needed the traffic to make potential advertisers or sponsors want to invite me on trips because I was speaking to enough people. So it's now been about 3 years of working with them.
Do the trips come thick and fast, or sometimes are you thinking, where can I go to keep the blog going?
No, they do. In fact, often they clash. Murphy's Law, of course they will. You know, you don't go anywhere for 2 months and then 2 trips are off for the same week. So there's 2 ways of trips coming. Either someone approaches me because they like all my outlets, not just my website, but that is one of them, and they invite me on a trip, and then I'll if I can go, I'll do it. Or I might approach them because, for example, I've got a conference I'm going to in the US in June. So building around that, I thought, well, while I'm there, what else would I like to see, and what else would make good fodder for my blog and stuff. So then I approach those destinations.
Say, okay, here I am, and I've got X number of people visiting my site.
And I give them all those numbers because, and I think a lot of freelancers and bloggers, they just think, don't you know who I am?
So what are your audience numbers?
I get about 30,000 page views a month.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it does seem a lot. It does seem a lot, but
to the average person it does.
Yeah, it's small though compared to some of the big travel bloggers that I follow.
Yeah. So what are they? Are they getting up to in the millions, sort of thing?
Oh, hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands.
It's a numbers game. Honestly, it's a numbers game, and I think New Zealand, we are probably about 2 years behind. If we look at what the trends are doing overseas, particularly in the US, we'll be there, but we're not there yet.
Do you deliberately sort of not divulge that you live in Auckland, New Zealand? I mean, does that put you sort of way down at the bottom of the world, so that puts you at a disadvantage?
I'm a .com website, and I think that is why a lot of my traffic does come from the US, because it all comes down to how well you optimize your website. So if you are really clever using the right keywords, you will rise to the top wherever you're from. So it actually doesn't matter in the online world where you're based, because a story that will do well every single day for me will be my 5-day itinerary from driving to Los Angeles to San Francisco. Now, people are coming from all around the world to read that because
lots and lots of people will be doing that.
They love that kind of story. Where should we stay? Where should we stop? Where can we shop? Where should we eat? And all those keywords are scattered throughout my very lengthy, I have to say, that's one of the longest blogs I've written. And it's a hit.
All the places you've been in the last 12 months, got any favourites?
I was really enamoured with Dubai. I went up there, you know, it's typically for New Zealanders it's a stopover on our way to Europe. I went there for 1 week and I got to see heaps of the country, from the sand dunes in the desert to the really beautiful 5-star Atlantis Palm Hotel where the VIP suite is worth $35,000 a night, up to the Verge, you know, skiing in the shopping mall. I really liked it, So
it's a big wide world out there to see, isn't there? Obviously you're going to be seeing more of it. Thank you, Megan Singleton.
Thanks very much.